In the last discussion, we have covered about normative ethical theories, where we have discussed about the traditional ethical theories and the contemporary or alternative ways of deciding for ethical theories, helps in deciding for ethical issues. In this particular discussion now, we will be focusing on the descriptive ethical theories. In the descriptive ethical theories, what we are focusing on is how ethical decisions are actually made in business situations and what are the factors, the variables which affect the ethical decision making. So, the course of discussion of now is models of ethical decision making and the factors affecting decision making in the ethical decision making in the organization. So, when we are talking of what is an ethical decision, we understand the ethical decisions are those decisions which have implication for the parties for whom the decisions have been made. There is no right and wrong answer presently clearly available, and there is a debate about what is morally right and morally wrong in a particular situations, and there are n number of alternatives present, like you can do this, you can do that, you can take this action, you can take that action, but you have to decide about which way to go, which action to take, which will be more morally correct, morally right, and will not be wrong in the sense of the benefits and harms. When you are talking of moral right and moral wrong, we talk in terms of benefits and harms, provided increasing the benefit and lessening or avoiding the harm as a consequences of the action taken on the people at large, to other people, involved parties with our business processes, and also to the society at large. So, each of the decisions that we are taking to have an implication for ourselves and also to others, and there are alternatives and different alternatives available, and through our ethical decision making process we have to choose the best possible alternatives given the complexity in which the decisions are being taken. So, let us now focus into the models of ethical decision making. So, when we are focusing on the models of ethical decision making process, we have to understand that first the issue has to be realized as a moral issue by people. Next, this stage is important because if you are not recognizing an issue to be moral issue, then the other stages do not follow. So, first issue has to be recognized as a moral issue. Second, it should be, we should be able to make a moral judgment with regard to that issue. Third, there should be an intention to act, establish an intent to act in a certain way after you have made this judgment, and the way your intention to act in a certain way will define your moral behavior, means how you respond to the moral issue. So, recognition of the moral issue, making moral judgment, establishing an intent and engaging in moral behavior, These are the 4 stages in ethical decision making. The normative theories, as we have covered in the last discussion, helps us in recognizing this moral issue and also the making a moral judgment through the lenses given, like if these things are followed, then it is ethically right. If these things are not followed, then it is ethically not right. And based on the weightages of the positives and the negatives that you get from analyzing the issue, based on that you make a judgment about whether the issue is ethically right or wrong and what you need to do about it, and your intention to do something for it, your responsibility or responsiveness towards it, and then you try to act on it. So, these are the different stages of ethical decision making, and here comes the involvement of normative theories, which helps you to make the moral judgment. So, what are the factors which are influencing the ethical decision making? Are mainly 2 factors which we can classify as broad category as individual related issues, factors, and situational factors. So, individual factors are the unique characteristics of the individual who are making a relevant decision, and these can again be classified under 2 headings: those characteristics which are those characteristics of the individual which are acquired by the individual by birth, and those characteristics of the individual which the person have got as a process of learning, socialization and maturity. Second group of factors that we find are called situational factors. The situational factors are particular features of the context in which the decision is being made, so which either facilitates or hinders the process and prompts whether the individual will make an ethical decision or not, morally correct decision or not. And this may include factors which are there within the working context in which the issue have happened, or it may be related to the issue itself. Factors related to the issue itself are the moral intensity of the issue and the framing of that issue. How ethical framing of that issue means how we make it appear to look like. So, the basic framework for understanding ethical decision making that we have is this, like this is the ethical decision making process, and we have individual factors which affect each of these processes and situational factors also affecting each of these processes, and this is the complex framework in which ethical decision takes place, and the individual factors also have its different natures and categories, and situational factors can also be classified under sub factors and their categories under it. So, what could be the, before we proceed towards the detailed discussion of the individual and the situational factors, we should understand like these type of model may have certain limitations, in the sense like we have to understand like these can have type of models can have cultural biases, that this shows like this all the stages are related to each other, and it is not very sensible to like study each of the stages separately. So, it is like what we can tell, like this model is a very simple way to represent a complex phenomena happening. So, this model that we are seeing, so we can understand this is a very complex phenomena happening. So, you can take this together, this together, you can study this chain also. So, there can be n number of ways that you can there can be n number of ways in which you can study the relationship, all happens together, and it is not possible to separate one from the other. So, with this we move forward to the individual and the situational influences on ethical decision making, as shown in the last model. So, what we find as the individual factors over here are age and gender, national and cultural characteristics, education and employment, and also psychological factors like cognitive moral development, locus of control, personal values, personal integrity, and moral imagination. We will start with age and gender. So, what we understand, like with there are like research findings which are contradictory in nature with respect to how age helps in, or like whether there are differences in gender with respect to how it affects the decision making process for taking ethical decision making process. Yes, we have like decided or discussed earlier about the feminist way of decision making, and so when you are talking of feminist way of decision making, this is the perspective like the how women think, and that because they think in terms of relationships. So, that is the perspective taken, like this is a feminist way of decision making. So, these things like age and gender, it tells like the research to it is contradictory, like we just cannot come to conclusion like people who are elder in nature or elder in terms of age and experience, they are better ethical decision makers as compared to young people, or maybe males are better decision maker than females, or vice versa. Though yes, when you are talking of gut feelings and we are talking of postmodern ethics, the experience gained through life, the past experiences gained have some implication while we are trying to relate the effect of age on decision making, but truly also on the other side, the virtue ethics definitely has an impact on how you are making a decision, and we just cannot come to the conclusion older people are more virtuous in nature than the younger people. So, all the variables what you are trying to put forward over here is all the variables are interacting with each other, constantly interacting with each other to affect each other and in this way it's very difficult to separate out and tell, like elder people think more ethically than the younger one, or the males think differently or better than the females, or vice versa. If not, we have control for the other influencing variables, and here for age and gender, of course, virtuous character, postmodern ways of thinking, when you are talking of gut feelings and experiences, this may affect the individual variables of age and gender. And also the other psychological variables related over here, the cultural context related over here, because it depends also on the culture that you are brought in, which helps in like a person getting introduced to socially acceptable gender roles of the ways of thinking, ways of behaving, and that may have a tremendous impact on whether people of like different genders think differently, or at different ages think differently or not. So, this is a very complex relationship with like only just separating out the variable and asking like whether they have an impact or not. Some findings are contradictory in nature due to the intervening nature of the other variables which are interacting with them. So, when you are talking of culture and the characteristics of those culture, so we have already understood like people from different culture think differently because of the emphasis of these different cultures in understanding the facts as interpret what is right and wrong. So, and that leads to the variations. So, according to Hofstede, like the 5 major dimensions are like individualism and collectivism. What is the level of power distance, whether your preference for uncertainty, avoidance, tolerance, and masculinity, femininity, long term and short term orientation. These of course like helps in forming your opinion about what is right and what is wrong with respect to that particular culture, and has definite role in shaping your beliefs about it. So, this is what culture can contribute in asking or in developing your beliefs about right and wrong, and thus affect your decision making process. When you are talking of education and influences, so again there are if we get a training on something about how to think ethically in certain ways, that obviously helps you in ethical decision making. Like we are learning this course, we are to understand what are the correct ways of ethical decision making with respect to business situations. So, if any person who has registered for this course and any person who has not registered for this course or have not studied or gained first hand knowledge about what is business ethics, how ethical decisions are to be made in business situations, then the difference in the knowledge that these two persons have, like how to decide in proper way in what type of situations, may lead to certain differences in the way that they are looking at a particular problem, analyzing the problem and taking their like final decisional steps about it. So, type of education. So, and the quality of education that you are getting may have a positive impact in influencing the ethical decision making process. Next, we come to discuss the psychological factors and which are involved, which helps in ethical decision making, influences your ethical decision making process. And first that we will be discussing is the cognitive moral development, the theory which is based on Kohlberg's research, which talks of the different levels of reasoning that an individual has developed and which applies to issues, and based on their reasoning and their different stages of development in the lifespan, age wise development in the lifespan, life stages, they come to conclusion about what is right and what is wrong according to that different life stages, and these are called cognitive moral development. We will be discussing that in next upcoming discussion, and it has got 3 levels: pre-conventional, conventional and the post-conventional levels. So, there have been some criticisms regarding it, majorly is regarding the gender bias for this, because in Kohlberg's research, majorly the research was done on the male decision makers and not on the female decision makers. So, that is why, like when you are talking of feminist way of looking at things, looking at the relationships, priorities, and so we will find that is where we find a reflection of Gilligan's research, who tried to propagate like women think differently and their self is invested in a different way in a web of relationship, and the self identity, self definition of self concept lies in the relational perspective. So, that is where this feminist ethics, it has developed into that. But if you are looking into Kohlberg's things of how the stages progresses, it looks more like into a traditional way of deciding, into a rational way of looking into things, where at the end you are more guided by the principles that you follow for yourself. Next, the other thing that which is very important to for ethical decision making is individuals' locus of control. So, locus of control tells about where does the control lie for who is determining, like whether you are responsible for your actions. So, if it is, people may have either external locus of control or internal locus of control. People who are having external locus of control, they feel like the control of their actions and the outcome of those actions are lying with the not with them, but with others, because the control of the action, what they are doing, does not lie with them. So, the outcomes or the consequences of those actions also, they are not responsible for it, but others are responsible, because the control lies with the external parties. Those who have an internal locus of control means who feel like they are responsible for their own actions, then they also feel like they are accountable for their own, they are accountable for their own actions, and the responsibility of the actions lies with them. So, this locus of control, which determines the extent to which the people believe that they have a control over events in their life, determines whether they take the responsibility also for the consequences of their actions, mainly in terms also for the harm provided or harm done as a consequence of the activities. We will move quickly through the stages of development, cognitive moral development, where we see in the level 1 it is called pre-conventional, and next level is conventional, and the third level is post-conventional. In the pre-conventional level, stage 1, people are guided more by facts which are called obedience and punishment. So, what are these obedience and punishment is? People decide what is right and wrong based on the expected rewards and punishment from authority figures. So, this is like the initial stage of development of your life, where to toddlers we start teaching what is right and what is wrong. So, and we will tell them this is what you have to obey, this is what you have to follow, because your parents are teaching this, your majorly the parents, the authority figure at the home, the mother or the father, could be the mother, telling like this is what is required to follow and you have to follow it unquestionably without asking, like because I know, I tell you this is what needs to be done, and if you follow it then you get certain reward, if you don't follow it you get a punishment for it. So, this obedience and follows to the authority figures follows from the need to get a reward and to avoid a punishment. So, being right gets associated with getting a reward, and avoiding punishment is associated with not doing something wrong. So, obedience and punishment in the initial stages of life determines the your start of what you do, and try to do right things and avoid doing wrong things. If it continues in the adult life also like this, reward and punishment orientation for doing ethical things. So, it may so happen the employees will try to follow ethical behavior if they feel, if they understand the organization is going to reward it, and they are not doing unethical behavior when they feel or they see like the organization is going to punish them for it. Next, when it comes to the pre-conventional level, you see it is instrumental, purpose and exchange. So, here the individuals are concerned with their own immediate interests and defined rights. So, based on whether there is a fairness in the exchange process and deals, and try to make things, do things to achieve it. So, this is maybe the bargaining stage where the individual has reached in the stage of development, where you see children maybe of 4 5 years of age, preschool children 5 6 years, or like where they start to like, I will do this, I will follow this if you give me this reward, if you allow me a chocolate, if you allow me to watch a TV and cartoon and all. So, they know what is, what they want to serve their self interest, what will be a rewarding experiences for them, and they start bargaining in terms of being ethical or doing something right and wrong based on the rewards that they determine, like whether I get it or not get it. So, if you ask me to follow you, then you also give me in exchange the reward that I am expecting from you. So, this when followed to the organizations, maybe it is a reciprocity between colleagues which may develop, like if you want me to make up for your absences today, tomorrow when I do not come to the organization for some reason, then I also expect you to reciprocate it back to me, sort of. So, these type of things are there when you see it in adult life. Come to the stage 3, which is the pre-conventional stage, the major stage 2, conventional. So, first one is the pre-conventional stage. So, second one is the conventional stage. So, where the main orientation is interpersonal accord, conformity and mutual expectations. So, you can relate it to the school going age, where the peers become very important in a person's life. The child has started going to school, met with other people, other children of the same age, maybe coming from the same locality, community, but from a different family, with same or different perspectives of looking into certain things. And group behavior at this stage is very important, because people want to form a group, play with their peers, and really peers shape one's own perspective of how you are looking at things. So, peers they look up to what and try to, because they want to be in that group, they try to follow what peers are telling and people close to them are telling. So, in the organization, if you are translating it, like if one person is doing something, some activity, then he tries to look around and find what others like him in the same position are doing or not, and tries to justify his activity based on his or her activity, based on that. So, this is a stage where you try to defend your actions, telling everyone else is also doing in the same manner. If you are doing certain things, maybe taking a pencil from your organization back home, then you are and if asked why you are doing it, you tell everybody does it in the same way. You are focusing to your peers. Conventional stage 4, this is called social accord and system maintenance. So, this broadens to social system where you are more concerned. It is maybe at a stage when you are become adolescent or young adults, where the social esteem plays a major role. You try to maintain a positive self image. So, by doing the right things, so that you can create a positive self image and you gain social esteem from the others who are looking at you. These others may not be immediately people with whom you are related to. This could be new people also, new whom you have met and with whom you have not been directly related to, but you want to create a positive self image of yourself by doing right things and avoid doing wrong things. So, suppose a factory manager gives more pay and more benefits or well-being measures to the workers, so that he feels like this becomes acceptable to the consumers, pressure groups and other stakeholders. So, in order to appear in a positive light, in a positive image to the other peoples who may be keeping an eye on you, trying to observe what you are doing, what you are not doing, you try to for this social accord, you try to do something positive and avoid doing something negative. This is conventional stage 4. In the post conventional phase, which is phase 5, we call this social contract and individual rights. So, there they go beyond this identifying with others' expectations and assess right and wrong in case of upholding basic rights, values and contracts of the society. So, there here what you find, so you are no more guided by the relationships that you are in, but if you feel like this is what the basic values that the society believes in. So, this is a slight departure that you are finding from when you discussed about the feminist way of looking at things, because feminist ways generally take care also of others' rights, others' expectations, and in that light discusses what is right and wrong. But here we find like we are looking more forward. I understand it is that this right is the entitlement right. When you are talking of basic rights, these are the entitlement rights. People are entitled to receive certain information from us. People are entitled to be treated in such a way, in some way. So, irrespective of the expectations and the relationship that we are in, then we will try to address to be positive to the entitlements of the people and not try to create barriers to it. So, like a food it's a public affair manager of a food company. If he wants to reveal like the food contains some genetically modified ingredients, and he wants to tell it to the customers, because he feels like it is the customer's right to know like what is there inside the food that's been prepared, and though he is not pressurized by any consumers to tell anything. So, this is the main part where there is this is a proactiveness on the part of the manager, thinking like it is the right of the entitlement of the consumers to know like what is there, how the food is getting prepared, and without being pressurized, without anybody forcing me to disclose what is there, me voluntarily coming up and telling like this is what is there in the food, because I feel like it is the customer's right to know. So, and we move beyond maybe the relationship that I am having with the firm, like I am obligated to the firm to not to maybe disclose about certain things, but I give priority to the right of the customers first and then disclose facts about I inform them about the facts about the ingredients in the food, though not obliged by law, but I feel like it is my part of moral responsibility to do it. So, this is social contract and individual rights. Post conventional is universal ethical principles where individuals are making decisions based on self chosen ethical principles such as justice, equality and rights, which they believe everyone should follow. This is where again a virtue ethics comes to play, and tells like I believe in some universal principles and I feel like everybody should be following it. So, I proactively start practicing certain things which I believe to be universal truth. So, I may decide like I am not going to buy anything tested on animals, because I truly believe like for my personal cause I cannot provide harm to animals. So, and because it is the animal's right to live a life free from suffering. So, these type of thoughts are at the universal ethical principles level. So, other individual factors which are affecting The decision making processes are of course personal values, then the person, which are the your belief, enduring belief about what is right and what is wrong with respect to a specific mode of conduct or an end state of existence, and so that it is which is which you believe to be socially preferable, and to an opposite which you feel like, or converse mode of conduct or end state of experience. So, these are your personal values, your convictions, your beliefs, like this is more preferable for this way of doing things, or more preferable outcome as socially preferable outcome as compared to an opposite set of alternatives that you may be having. Personal integrity, it talks of your adherence to moral values, your honesty, your trustworthiness, your dependability, your consistency over time. All these talks of personal integrity. Moral imagination is the extent to which you can think, like how much you can broaden your thought process to think, like to what extent you have thought about what are the different stakeholders you could have identified, what are the different relationships that you could identify, which talks about like what is the intensity of harm that you may have provided to the society or to your stakeholders, who are your stakeholders, how they are connected and all. So, and to what extent you can think of, broaden your horizon of thinking, of include about the different varieties that you can think of the moral consequences of your action, that talks, and possibilities, that talks of the moral imagination of the person, the wide range that you can think of. Next, we will move forward to the situational influences of decision making. Thank you.